Welcome back, everybody, and very excited to talk to our next guest. One of our favorite, you guys know we love the fights. We love boxing, and this is one of our favorite boxing guests. This is Andre Ward. It was our first fight together. You guys know we love the Vegas stories. We were just out in Vegas for Spence Crawford, but our first trip was to Vegas for Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, the rematch. He stops him, the final fight of his career, and Andre Ward, kind enough to join us now. His new book, Killing the Image, is out today. It's out today. So go check it on out. Go get it where all books are available. Andre, you've been doing a lot of reflecting, man. I saw your Showtime documentary. Now you are, you got your book out. What has this year been like in reflection, man? Has this been a hard couple of years to put this all down, or has this been a cool experience for you?
It's been a lot of things, over the last 2 years, between like the last 2 or 3 years between the doc and the book, man. I'm over myself. I'm tired of hearing about myself. I'm happy for y'all to hear about me and hear more about my story. But it's been a great process, a lot of legwork to get things sold and find the right home for the doc and the book. We found it, and now it's just about trying to tell the right stories the right way. And once I got my mother's blessing that I could tell her story, and I thought long and hard about my father's story, even though he's gone, and I began to have the courage to tell my story, I was off to the races. And anything I try to put my hands to do, man, I try to do it the right way, a very classy, detailed way. And I believe that Killing the Image is another one of those projects.
Andre, so you ever sit back and, like, when you went through this process and your doc and you talk about your family and your career and where you are now, you ever look back and go, damn, I made it. I had a hell of a life. Because, we all have friends that didn't quite get there. Yeah. Guys we grew up with that for whatever reason, it didn't quite work out for them and they took a different turn. And you look back and go, wow. Yeah. Like you have to look back and go, I can't understand. Like, you think we tired of hearing the story, but just to look back and reflect, you ever just sit back and go, I had a hell of a run.
These last 4 or 5 years have been that, since retirement. I was always taught, even as a young kid, I win nationals, and it's like, yeah, we could talk about it for a day or two and we got to get back to work. I was always taught to sort of take care of my business, suppress it, and then move on to the next. But when I retired, went through the process, making it to the Hall of Fame, and then starting these 2 projects, this doc and the book, I gave myself the opportunity to sit back and reflect. And I've had a heck of a life. I've been through a lot in 39 years. Most importantly, I've overcome a lot. And I look back at the career and I'm like, the critics can say what they want to say. Right. I'm a first ballot Hall of Fame, and they can never take that away from me.
Right. Exactly.
How tough were those conversations, Andre, with your mom about going back into your childhood and all of that stuff, bringing that stuff up? Were those tough talks with her?
Tough talks. Went better than expected. When I finally did, get her to talk and talk about the situation. And I'm so happy about my mother, man. She has been through a lot. She's made some mistakes, but she's more than those mistakes that she's made. She's overcome a lot, and she's free. She's not that person anymore. And like I mentioned in my dedication in the first part of the book, is that what she wasn't necessarily for me, she's that to my grandbabies and my children. They call her Granny. And I'm just proud of her, man. She's a true redemption story. My father wasn't here to give me his blessing, but I believe that I represented my dad the right way while telling the truth. And tough conversations that needed to be told. We both agreed, me and my mother, that it would be selfish at this point in time in life to withhold these stories and these processes and, the generational things, the good, the bad, the ugly from the world. We got to tell it, and hopefully some people grab something from it. And here's the thing too, like, I just don't want people to be inspired by this book. I hope that the inspiration turns into something. There's some roadmaps in this book, Killing the Image, and I hope that some people can follow some of those paths and get free in some areas too.
Was there ever a point when, you started going through this process of telling your story, that you got to a point that you went through or your moms went through and y'all had a conversation of like, we need to put this out there so people don't do this.
Yeah.
Right. We need to, so maybe people could avoid this part of this story because it'll make their life a little bit easier and their path a little bit easier.
We did. We did several stories, several instances. And you know, my brother Shaka Senghor, he's got a book out called "Righting My Wrongs," and it talks about, you know, growing up in Detroit and finding his gift of writing, you know, in a Detroit prison system. And this dude is a tremendous orator and just a gifted writer. I would call him in those moments when I would get stuck, like Shaka, I can't talk about this, bro. I can't do it. He said, Dre, look at, he would laugh and say, I get you. He said, but look at it like this. He said, it's not if I can talk about it, it's how am I going to talk about it? He said, this is when your gift to write and to visualize comes in a place where you got to determine, how do I tell this story in such a way where the reader can see themselves in it. They can be inspired by it, and they can see how you overcame it. And I did that time in and time out with this book. And man, I'm happy, bro. This book is out officially tomorrow, and man, go get it, and you won't be disappointed.
It looks great. Andre, I wanted to ask you about watching the documentary, and I can't wait to get into the book. But one of the things that's fascinating with boxers, you know, we see the young college athletes, they get college to kind of mold and go into pros. You guys, if you want to get into professional boxing, and you were, you know, dreams of Olympics, you're doing that as a kid. What is that process like of basically giving up a childhood to think about a goal that you have to have as an adult? It seems like almost, I don't know if you could compare it really to anything in sports, maybe musician, like young singer, but like that's a crazy thing to have a plan like that as a child to do this, you know, in the prime of your adulthood to earn.
What's crazier about everything you just said is that we being my dad and Verge, like we actually believed that it was going to happen. Like that's the crazy part. And I didn't realize how sort of abnormal my childhood was until I became an adult. I'm like, bro, that wasn't normal. Like I would disappear for a week, be at nationals fighting every day for 5 days. And then I would just pop back up at school on Monday, like, what you doing, bro? I was at the nationals and I just won this boxing tournament. They'd be like, huh? Like it just wasn't.
Your friends couldn't comprehend.
Come on, they just couldn't get it. So it's not normal. It's very abnormal. You do have to give up a lot. You're literally a phenom being groomed to be a gold medalist and then a champion. So it's a sacrifice, man. It's a sacrifice. And this is why even commentating, I'm very sensitive about my criticism about the young guys coming up, because we equate talent with maturity. Just because you got this talent that's out of the world, we've seen it in football, we've seen it in different sports where it's like, man, but the character stuff ain't there yet. I try to be sensitive about my criticism because I know the process that I had to go through. We didn't have no financial courses. I figured out to not do the wrong thing by having to sue people saying, man, you getting over right here, man. Hey, man, hold on. Like, look, we got to fix this. I learned the hard way. So this is why I take my time before I throw out harsh criticism about young guys, because they're trying to figure this thing out in real time.
Well, the other thing is that, you know, in other sports, there's different levels, and the maturity has an opportunity to grow. And it doesn't mean that once you get through college and go to the NFL, you are mature. But you were doing this in high school.
Yeah.
And so by the time as a football player, you are even considered to be mature enough, it's 3 years after college.
Right.
You see what I mean? So yeah, it's you know, I struggle with it sometimes too, but I could get like, yeah, man, you know the struggle. You know that the thing I learned in sports, and this is with everything, every talented guy is not successful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't always get the rewards of their hard work. And it could be because of somebody else in their camp. It could be because they're, you know, they have the wrong backing or whatever. And it's unfortunate, but everybody doesn't know that.
Yeah. Some of the most talented guys never made it.
Right.
Some of them never sniffed a national or a college or a draft. Like some of the most talented, because they didn't have a support system or the character stuff. They had people telling, bro, you got to put the drugs down. Bro, you got to get off the corner. They just couldn't do it. Some of the most but they pick up a ball. You like, bro, you got it. Like, man, just do this. And they just do this. They just couldn't figure it out.
Right. You were probably fortunate in that your support system kept you from the biggest struggle in your life, and that's getting out of the area that you in.
Yeah.
Like that was the hardest thing. Me and some of my friends, the struggle wasn't making it to the NFL. The struggle was getting out of the area that I lived in.
Yep.
And a lot of people can't do it.
Yeah. I'm grateful, man, for my dad. Though he had his struggles, he was present. Right. And then Verge came along and it was like this dual father role. And then when my dad passed, when I was 18 years old, Verge stepped right in. Like if I didn't have those two and then Verge being there when my dad passed, man, I don't even want to know, because I strayed even with him being there. So if I didn't have him there, it wouldn't have been good, man.
Talking to the great Andre Ward, his new book out, Killing the Image. Go get it wherever books are available. Andre, I want to ask a couple of things in the sports world. We're down here in Miami, guy who's from your area, and you have a relationship with Damian Lillard. At a point this summer, you ever touch base with him? Because we all thought he was going to end up down here in Miami with his breakup with the Trailblazers. We thought for sure, we had all the mock-ups, the photoshops, that he was going to be down here. Did you ever touch base with him in the summer and hear about either his interest in coming down here or what he was going through and all that with his breakup with the Blazers? And if so, like what can you tell us about those conversations?
Yeah, no, I definitely stayed in contact with him, man. And, for me, it's less about the business and more about just him. This is a dude that is a worldwide superstar, and rightfully so. And it's always about the business with guys like that. And I know what it feels like to just be the commodity and not the person. So anytime I tap in with Dame, it's how you doing? How you dealing with everything? You all right? I don't get into, bro, what you think? You going to I don't play with that stuff. He's got enough of that stuff on a day-to-day basis. So I pretty much stayed out of that. And I found out about things just like everybody else. But man, Dame is a solid dude, got a lot of weight on his shoulders. But he carries it well, man. And maybe it's an Oakland thing. I don't know.
Andre, let me ask you, because the way the fight game is right now, you got so many hands in the pot.
Yep.
That guys are starting to just go and do other things, whether it's these little, these unsanctioned fighting matches that are making them money. When I was a kid, it was called prize fighting, right? You fought for money. So I'm wondering, how do you feel about these guys going to do these special matches and getting paid more money than they would to fight in their own profession?
I mean, if your fan base wants to pay for it, I don't knock it. Only thing that I don't like, some of the influencer boxing and stuff that I see is when you got two guys that shouldn't be in a boxing ring.
Correct. Right.
You just shouldn't be here. Right. Like,
have more respect for the sport.
It's more respect for the sport, but it also shows you the level that we at. Like, this ain't no game. Like, y'all look crazy and yeah, you made a few dollars, but you see that this is different. Yeah. So I don't really get offended by it, but that's just stuff I kind of turn my nose. I'm like, whatever, I ain't watching that. But I respect like the Jake Pauls are doing, the Logan Pauls. I respect what they're doing, because guys like that, they really work hard. Like, I know the circles they run in, and they're really in the gym. They really train. They getting the black eyes and stuff like that, trying to become good. So I respect what they're doing. People can be mad all they want to, but people are going to be mad about anything. In terms of fighters, like either MMA or boxers being able to make more money outside, man, get your money. Because historically, in both of these sports, the fighters are walking away not what they're supposed to have, but they taking the damage. Right. And they got to deal with that post-career, and then people just wag their finger, oh, that guy didn't make what he was supposed to make. Oh, he got robbed. So you can find a niche, if you can find a way to use that same talent over here and they want to pay you more, man, I don't have a problem with that.
What did you think of Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury?
Man, I was shocked. I was shocked. Like, I'm going to be real. Like, I didn't give Francis a shot to not beat, but just even to look good. And I like him. I like his story. I watched him in the UFC. I respect him. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, man, there's no way. There's no way that, you're going to bring all that muscle mass into this boxing ring. And I saw him hit the mitts and stuff. I'm like, well, that's not it. That's not it. And I saw the first round, and I said, I was in the gym lifting and doing some cardio. I said, man, he's just carrying them. I said, Tyson is just giving them giving the fans in Saudi Arabia, a few good rounds. A lot of people there, want to knock him out in the first round. I said, this is going to be over fourth round or fifth round. I go on a Stairmaster. I'm doing my little 30 minutes, right? So I look up, they still watching the fight. I'm like, what's going on with the fight? They look at me like, he might be winning. I said, who's winning? Francis, he may be beating him. I said, I got off the Stairmaster. He just knocked him down. I mean, I couldn't believe any of it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the fact that it was an argument or a controversial decision, I still don't know what to make about it. Tyson said he trained 12 weeks. So normally I can wrap my head around the boxing business and give some type of input. I have none. Right. I just respect what Francis did. He took the risk, he prepared, and man, he showed out. He did his thing.
I mean, he's a freak, but like, you know, Tyson, we've seen him in there with power punching freaks, and Deontay Wilder, we've seen him bully guys with this. Like, I couldn't even imagine anybody touching you coming from MMA. Like, I mean, yes, I would say you're more skilled than Tyson Fury, but he's as skilled a big man as there is. I can't even imagine. I couldn't wrap my mind around what I was watching.
I have no words. And that knockdown was legitimate. That was legitimate. Yeah. So I have no words. I'm still trying to figure it out.
It's one of those things in sports you go, huh.
If I don't have my prediction, if I don't have my prediction isn't right, I'm normally not too far away. Man, I wasn't even on the page. I wasn't even, I was nowhere near. I was like, brother, I didn't see this coming.
Right.
Before we get you out of here, Andre, two more. Terence Crawford, we were out for his performance against Errol Spence. It was one of the most thrilling things.
One of the best pieces of work I have ever seen in a boxing ring. Two people at that stature and one getting pieced up like that. You don't see that very often.
Insane. For Terence, this talk, I mean, maybe a Canelo super fight. Do you think that's too much for him? Would that be too much, biting off too much, or is he skilled enough that he could pull that off?
He can do it, for sure. And to show you that he can do it, Canelo, I don't think Canelo's going to take that.
Really?
I don't think so. You see him saying Terence's name?
No.
No, I hear, I don't get anything out of that if I beat him. I'm like, oh, it feels like everybody would want to see that.
Yeah, I think it'll sell better than I think any fight that Canelo's had in the last few years outside of probably the Golovkin fight. I don't think Canelo's going to want to do that. And I talked to T, man. I talked to Terence. I said, bro, you getting to that point, bro, where you might be time to do that Andre Ward on him.
And just step away.
Go.
Bro, because at the end of the day, like 2-time undisputed, he could become 3-time undisputed if he fights Canelo. That's another feat in history. Terence is a businessman. He doesn't get a lot of credit for being a businessman. He's doing big business in Omaha and other places in the world. He can walk away on his own terms. If you don't have a Canelo situation, what else makes sense?
And you know what I hate? I hate that the champ always has to put himself in harm's way. So a guy like Terence Crawford, they sometimes feel to get validated, they got to just keep going. You know what I mean? And I hate that. It ain't his fault. Nobody can fight him.
I think Terence is different. Now we'll see, right? Like I talked a good game and I was able to walk it out, but a lot harder than what people know. You didn't see the days that I was like, man, I'm about to pick up the phone and call my manager. You didn't see the days I called my pastor, like, Pastor, what you think? Y'all didn't see them days. So it looks like it was an easy transition, but it wasn't. The struggle for Terence is similar to what it's going to be for me. He's extremely competitive. He competes at everything, dominoes, cars. When I see him, first thing we do is lock up. We wrestling for no good reason. We in the lobby. And I was like, what are y'all doing? We wrestling like, nah, you ain't stronger than me. All right, man, then we give each other a hug. Like that, he got to find a way to channel that thing.
Right.
And that's my biggest concern for Terence. But in terms of him knowing that, hey, man, it may be time soon and I don't want to end up like this, I don't worry about in terms of his knowledge of the timing, but he got to execute it. It's not going to be easy.
See, because when I think of a guy keep moving like this, Roy Jones. Roy Jones was untouchable, and he just kept moving until he got touched up. Yeah.
But I think T got a lot left in the tank. I think Terence, given his lifestyle, man, never touched a drink or alcohol or nothing, smoke or weed, nothing. So I think if he wanted to, he can go at least another 2 to 3 years without having no issues of slippage.
Right. I got you.
Just because you can don't mean you should, you know?
Right. I'm not sure if it's a book spoiler, Dre, but what is the one wild call you had with your manager? Like, I remember there was like maybe talks you were thinking of itching about going up to heavyweight. Like, what's the crazy thing that like was thrown at your desk that you had to say, maybe I'll come back for that?
I think it's been a Canelo thing over the years. You know, like it's weird because Canelo was never brought up when I was an active fighter. The only reason our name is even in the same category is because we fought a common opponent in Sergey Kovalev. And Kovalev he fought was not the Kovalev I fought. You know, Kovalev was washed at that point in time. Give him credit. He stopped him. He did what he had to do. But here comes the chatter, not from Canelo, from fans. So it's been that chatter, and it got to a point where the chatter became sort of real behind the scenes, and you know, phone calls started getting made, and you know, I don't want to say stuff started moving, but you know, the right people started getting on the phone, and you know, it didn't materialize. And I actually had to come out again. This was probably about 2-3 years ago on ESPN to kind of reiterate that, man, I'm retired. And I did that as much for myself as I did for the people.
You had to let yourself know.
I had to let the world know again, and like this is what I'm doing. I'm sticking to this because, man, you know, man, I got a high drive. I've always had a mission in my life, and though I'm grateful for what I'm doing out of the ring, it's not the same as in the ring. And the important thing for me is just not trying to chase that. Rest in what I've done, rest in my legacy, man, and step back and allow the young guys to take it from here.
We always appreciate your time. Andre Ward, go get his new book, Killing the Image. It is out this week, and it is, I'm sure, going to be fantastic. He's been doing some fantastic work with his documentary, but this book looks like it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Andre Ward, we always appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Always, fellas. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.